The golden age of television.
I Love Lucy didn't just change American television, it invented American television.
Back when one screen brought everyone together.
Watching television was a family event.
The shows that shaped us.
The Brady Bunch was part of the American soul.
It's timeless.
The familiar faces.
Ralph Cramden was loved by the honeymooners. He was a presence.
The unforgettable moments.
Dynasty captured the essence of what the 1980s were about in America.
These are their stories.
Cheers is the pinnacle of how great the sitcom can be.
This is TV we love. It's 1976. The Vietnam War has finally ended. America is celebrating its 200th birthday. People all over the country celebrate. Disco music is on the rise, and Jimmy Carter has just been elected president. There's a new sense of peace and optimism in the air. And with it, a whole new kind of TV series.
The Love Boat started something new.
It had great characters who we wanted to hang out with.
You know, have little crushes on Gopher.
It broke ground by luring Hollywood legends to television.
You just have to pinch yourself where you're sitting between Lana Turner and Ann Baxter, and you don't know which way to turn.
And giving future megastars their start.
The Love Boat very carefully made sure there was something for everybody. It had enormous ratings.
The Love Boat was a rating smash. But incredibly, almost didn't happen.
Reviewers said that The Love Boat is going to go down like the Titanic.
The premise was very simple. You get on a boat with problems, and it goes to all these different ports, and when it circles back to Los Angeles, you figured out how to solve the problems that you got on with.
Geraldine Saunders wrote a book called The Love Boats, plural. And so with her Luck of the Irish, brought her to the attention of ABC and Doug Kramer.
Doug Kramer was a producer at Paramount and was the original conceiver of this idea.
And so when he happened to be at the beach with his boyfriend one afternoon, reading a review of Geraldine Saunders' book, The Love Boats, he said, that's it. And so he put in a call to Geraldine Saunders' people.
And I called the author and I suggested that we buy her book. She seriously thought about it. We discussed a price and we bought it.
When Doug Kramer went to make The Love Boat into a pilot, he made it as a TV movie for ABC, which was common practice in the day. It was a smart idea because as a business practice, you get a TV movie out of it, whether it becomes a series or not. And if it flopped, we pretend it was just a movie. The audience doesn't have to know it was a pilot for a series.
So I read the script, and it wasn't particularly good, but I thought it could still work.
The problem with the first pilot was that the crew was not right.
The very first pilot, I wasn't in, Bernie or Fred wasn't in.
Nobody on that crew was somebody you really wanted to spend a lot of time with or captured your heart.
They kept the boat and threw out the actors.
One of the reasons why the first cast of the Love Boat pilot did not work was the casting of the captain. They cast an Australian actor named Ted Hamilton.
Captain, what's the emergency? Ah, that was your little monster. He just set off every fire alarm on board this ship.
And the president of ABC was furious, and they said, why? He's good looking, he's a good actor. And the president said, you don't understand. The purpose of the Love Boat is supposed to be that these passengers all want to each other. On this show, they're all just gonna want to the captain. The captain was too Luckily, ABC did realize that there's a good idea buried here.
They had to figure out a way. They had an idea for a show, but they didn't know how to execute it exactly.
Nobody believed that this piece of junk could do a 50 shares, so we didn't have enough faith in it to make a series out of it. We said, let's do another pilot.
And so they gave Doug Kramer permission to make a second pilot.
The whole thought that it might actually become a series, and a successful series, was a bridge too far.
This time, Doug Kramer had a smart idea.
About that time, Doug Kramer partnered with Aaron Spelling because he was in the business of creating this kind of magic.
Aaron Spelling was the darling of ABC.
Well, I think Aaron Spelling understood what the audience wanted, even at a time if network executives didn't.
He had 7 hours of primetime television,
including Charlie's Angels and Starsky and Hutch. And in fact, ABC was nicknamed around town, around Hollywood, Aaron's Broadcasting Company.
You know, it makes sense. A for Aaron, B for broadcasting, C for broadcasting company.
So Aaron and Doug made a second Love Boat pilot, this time just called so inventively the Love Boat 2, the Roman numeral 2.
And while we're at it, let's see if we can get the casting right this time.
The second pilot, Ted Lange, Bernie Kopell, and I were in it.
They decided to do a cruise on the Pacific Princess, on a real cruise ship, on a real cruise.
One of the most beloved things from the second pilot is the very first note you hear, that foghorn leading into the theme song.
Long, exciting and new.
Just about anyone you talk to of a certain age or older
Come aboard, we will welcome you.
knows the song more than they know the show.
That theme song was unique. It was what drew you into the show.
That was the best thing from the second pilot.
So, the second pilot, the guy playing the captain was having some difficulty.
Quinn Rediger was a good actor, but he was a very serious actor, and the captain had to have a little humor, and I think that was one of the problems.
He didn't feel comfortable with comedy.
There was a different cruise director.
The girl wasn't working.
And the network looked at that and went, I don't think so. And the second pilot didn't go.
Here's the problem. ABC gets the pilot again, and they air it, and it's just not quite right, so they didn't go ahead with the show. And Doug Kramer was dejected. He was standing outside ABC President Brandon Stoddard's office, really close to tears, because this project meant so much to him. And Aaron Spelling saw that. And so Aaron walked into ABC and said, as the key producer at ABC, give us a third chance. Almost unheard of. And so they gave Aaron and Doug a last chance. Get it right this time.
The network never does 3 pilots.
I don't know of any other show that had that many chances at failure. Normally, if you make a pilot, it doesn't go, you're out of the sketch, it's over.
So we did a third one, and we took another shot at casting it. We just couldn't seem to get it right.
They agreed that Bernie Kopell was good as the doctor.
You're the doctor.
And I'll be back with your prescription.
Bernie was known around town. He'd been on shows like Get Smart and The Doris Day Show, Bewitched, and others.
So Bernie Kopell, who played the doctor, one of the great characters, one of my favorite shows.
That Fred Grandy was a great find as Gopher.
Going a little heavy on the cologne, aren't you? No, just gave myself the usual dab. With what, a mop?
I guess Gopher was a comic foil for the most part, and dreamed of being sweetly dangerous among the women and never was. I usually got all the animals, you know, like the chimps and the dogs and a snake once.
Ted Lange was wonderful as Isaac.
Hi, I'm Alan Bundy.
Hi, I'm Isaac Washington.
He didn't have to audition for the show. Apparently, he just went into Doug Kramer's office and answered a question about being seasick.
He asked me if I got sick. I said no.
And then got a big contract.
And he said, that's it.
I, on the other hand, had 9 or 10 auditions and had to provide proof of citizenship and a urine test.
You just need a captain and a cruise director. And so the search was on.
Aaron Spelling, who had all the muscle in the world, said, Mary Tyler Moore is over. I'm going to go to Gavin MacLeod and offer him this show.
My agent called and said, Aaron Spelling wants you to do this thing called The Love Boat. He said, I think it sucks, but you want to read it. I said, sure.
So I invited Gavin to my house and talked to him.
Aaron said, okay, they're going to have big stars. I said, wow. And these 5 regulars? Wow. And the captain? Double wow.
He said, I'm yours.
Gavin MacLeod? That's brilliant casting. But that's why Aaron is so good at what he does.
And Gavin MacLeod is perfect.
Gavin was always so fabulous and such a great state of mind. I mean, he was just up all the time.
The character of Julie McCoy was the bête noire for the casting people, and they couldn't get the right actress. Candy Spelling, Aaron's wife, takes credit for saying to Aaron, what about that girl who was in that Starsky and Hutch and that Charlie's Angels that you made? Because Lauren Twees had indeed done an episode of Charlie's Angels and of Starsky and Hutch. And so they called in 22-year-old Lauren Twees. Now, she was a really struggling actress. She was driving on like a flat tire and had a blowout, you know, the night before. She was really on her last dime as a struggling actress. And she got the part. But it was out of desperation. It was down to the wire. She got the part because they were literally shooting the next day.
Literally the day before. The day before we go to shoot.
And I think she had to borrow money to fix the tire on her car to get herself to the Queen Mary in Long Beach, where the show would start shooting that third pilot the very next morning.
I'm Julie McCoy, your cruise director, also your girl Friday, and your all-around chief cook and bottle washer.
Everybody was so surprised that we were even making a third pilot.
And Gavin did like this, we'll run for 10 years. Went, oh man, this guy's delusional.
When the third Love Boat pilot aired as a TV movie,
It had enormous ratings.
it was undeniable that this was a concept that people wanted to watch.
For some reason, the mix of the five of us gelled.
And so it finally got the green light to go to series.
So we gave him 13 episodes.
It must have been a huge relief to Doug Kramer and Aaron Spelling after they put their necks on the line to get 3 pilots made. And so it went right into production.
At that time, there was no real show dedicated to romance.
You had these young, hot girls, young, hot guys going on a cruise, falling in love, and for some reason, that hit a nerve.
And so we put that on the air at the end of Saturday night.
But back then, Saturday was actually a hot night of television. That meant that the hottest shows were on, which it was things like the Bob Newhart Show and the Carol Burnett Show. And in fact, the Love Boat gets scheduled on Saturdays. It's going up against the Carol Burnett Show. Everybody was in a panic.
I mean, nobody looked at ABC on Saturday night.
Everybody thought, well, all right, this is going to be a show, goes for a bit, dies. It was a paycheck.
You know, the people who resented it the most were the television critics across the country. They hated these shows.
It'll sink like the Titanic.
Down like the Titanic.
Sink like the Titanic.
It's banal and trite and stupid. And if it weren't for Aaron Spelling, it would be in a watery grave. The show was never going to be a critical hit. And we understood this. But it was instantaneously a popular hit. And believe me, in this business, if you have to choose one, you choose the popular hit. We began, I believe, in 1977. At that time, television was mostly situation comedies and evening dramas.
It was just so silly. 3 different stories playing, and almost everybody who left the ship at the end of the cruise was engaged.
You are definitely invited to the wedding.
Wedding?
Everyone's problems could be wrapped up within the space of an episode.
Well, Isaac.
Walter.
Gopher. Thank you for a very inventive cruise. You're welcome.
And so that was a whole new way of doing a TV show. The Love Boat started something new. Each episode would consist of 3 or 4, sometimes, stories.
There were 3 writing teams that would write the 3 different storylines per episode. So each of those writers were really able to concentrate on their own little one-act play.
There would be one melodramatic story.
Sally, wait a minute. Sally, you don't understand.
Oh, believe me, I understand.
There would be a romantic comedy story.
You're the one who interests me. Why don't we go back to my cabin and discuss it over a drink?
And then there would be a slapstick comedy story.
That combination of romance and escapism was absolutely unique.
I really thought that boat was real. I thought it was amazing.
The Love Boat is a fantasy set on what people think a cruise ship was like in the 1970s and 1980s. Now, you have to remember that cruising after World War II was totally out of fashion.
At the time, the cruise industry was dying.
Then they started saying, okay, now we're gonna film an entire episode on a real ship, on a cruise to Mexico.
As far as shooting on a ship, there were always conditions that we had to deal with.
To actually shoot on a cruise ship the first time is a daunting challenge.
We ran into some problems that we could not have anticipated. The real passengers on the ship were not particularly delighted to have large camera cables and lights and people disrupting their vacation. The ceilings of these ships were very low. The lights were so close to the ceiling, they set off the sprinkler system. So, you know, the Flaming Baked Alaska parade was drowned out. We had one cruise from San Francisco up to Alaska, and we hit a tremendous gale. And the ship was listing like this. They were putting out barf bags in the lobby because everybody was sick.
It was undeniable that this was a concept that people wanted to watch. So that meant, okay, now we have to make 26 episodes of this every year. The Love Boat became this machine that devoured guest stars.
Make way for the star of my son's show.
Mom!
If you were anybody in the 1970s, you wanted to be a guest star on The Love Boat.
They were the first show to not only have guest stars on the show, but have guest stars clamoring to be on the show.
It was fun to go down to the set and say, oh, we're shooting today.
Oh my God, I turn around and I'm in a scene with Ginger Rogers and we're dancing.
Vincent Price,
Richard Roundtree,
Florence Henderson,
Alan Thicke,
Joan Fontaine,
John Ritter, Eva Marie Saint,
Mark Harmon,
Milton Berle,
Craig Stevens,
Ernest Borgnine,
Colleen Dewhurst,
Ray Milland,
Shirley Jones, Cesar Romero,
Betty White. Oh my God, Betty White.
Bob Guillaume,
Olivia de Havilland,
Debbie Reynolds,
Haley Mills, Elizabeth Ashley,
Charo,
Coochie, coochie, coochie.
One smart cookie.
Peter Graves.
Donna Michi came on the show.
There were just so many fun guest casts every week.
Part of the fun of The Love Boat was seeing who was going to show up. That's part of why we tuned in Saturday nights at 9 o'clock.
It was a lifetime of show business compressed into 8 or 9 seasons of television.
We'd get casting lists, suggestions from Doug Kramer or Aaron Spelling. We would have to tell them which ones were still living.
Aaron Spelling said early on, we're going to honor old stars.
Aaron Spelling and Doug Kramer were just fans of old movies. And so they were excited to get to bring some of these people back for a victory lap. And for some of these people, it would end up being the last thing they ever did.
You know what else was good about working with old timers? Is their professionalism. Greer Garson, big MGM movie star, came on the set. She knew everybody's name. She knew the cameraman's name. You know, I mean, that's old school.
You know, somebody like Ray Bolger does the show. He comes not just to do his role, but he's got all of these stories to tell.
Have yourself a wonderful cruise.
I'm sure I will. I'm sure I will.
It was really one of those things where you just have to pinch yourself, where you're sitting between Lana Turner and Ann Baxter, and you don't know which way to turn because they had such great stories.
Now, Lana was, at that point, a little bit frail. She plays this woman who meets Stuart Granger, who is managing the musical group Menudo, including Ricky Martin.
Oh, I love soccer.
The young men can't play, Mr. Brown.
She's She's like, let me show you some moves.
Well, let's go, boys. I'll show you how it's done. Come on, I'll teach you.
And she's like kicking the soccer ball. She can barely walk at this point in real life, but it's this old white lady kicking a soccer ball to this Latin group of boys. And they were like, wow, you're really good. So Lana Turner taught Menudo everything they needed to know about soccer. That's believable.
The Love Boat very carefully made sure there was something for everybody. If you had Betty White in an episode that was appealing to an older audience, you had Scott Baio that was appealing to the teenagers.
And you would find Tom Hanks or Courtney Cox or Michael J. Fox or Kathy Bates or Jamie Lee Curtis playing alongside Louise Rayner. And you'd get to see the only time these people would probably ever get to share a screen together. Lauren Tweez on a break went up to Ruth Gordon and said, Miss Gordon, I'm such a fan. I loved you in Harold and Maude. But I have to ask, why are you doing this? Is it for the visibility? Is it for to get a new set of fans, whatever? And Ruth Gordon's answer was, the visibility, I need new drapes. So sometimes the actors were doing it for a very mundane reason, the paycheck. And the paychecks were good on The Love Boat.
What do you remember most about the show? What did you love most about it?
The money was so great. I tell you, I got so rich doing that show.
Sometimes, in order to get a big star on the show, Aaron had to be very generous.
There might have been some bribes strung in there along the way.
Jackie Smith from Charlie's Angels, she didn't want to do our show. And so Aaron says, what's your favorite car? She said, Jaguar, green. She got a Jaguar, green.
I don't feel somehow deprived because Aaron never bought me a car. All he did was fly me around the world first class. I mean, huh.
One of the things about The Love Boat where there was a little bit of a slush fund was when it came to wardrobe. And it was really a training ground for Aaron and Doug's later show, Dynasty. When there would be a big star coming on board, money was no object. Aaron would be like, make it work. We'll figure out how to pay for it.
We were known as a company that used guest stars and took care of guest stars. We sent a limo to pick them up. They had a dressing room with red carpet, but they appreciated the treatment.
The word got out. And word got out that if you do this show, it will bring you visibility with a whole new audience. It may help boost your comeback that you're looking to do. It also will certainly be a great experience. They will treat you well. Everything is first class. It's first class hair and makeup. It's first class wardrobe. They have all the tricks of the trade, the wigs, the tape, anything you need to make you look your absolute best. So that was really a lure for a lot of old Hollywood.
That was part of the selling point of the show. Everybody was glamorous. You knew you were going to look great and be dressed well.
The attitude was gratitude on that show. And it really began to spread the reputation for the show. I mean, there were always certain actors, so I'm not going to do Love Boat. That's beneath me. But very few.
They also realized that the stories they were doing were not Shakespeare. And the cruise stories would be silly. And they were okay with it.
I love you, Coral, but I have to let you go.
Alan, I love you. I love you.
The Love Boat had kind of the air of an MGM musical to it. And they said, why don't we actually do a musical? The Follies is the ultimate Love Boat episode. They got Hollywood and Broadway royalty to act out this show. It features Della Reese, Ethel Merman, Carol Channing, Ann Miller, Van Johnson, Cab Calloway. That's 6 legends from Broadway and from Hollywood, still able to be at the top of their game.
They would rehearse musical numbers like we were doing a Broadway show. And I say, oh, well, you know, we can leave it. It's, no, we want to do it again and again and again. They were perfectionists.
The one who can sit the longest without moving wins.
They said Ethel Merman was kind of near the end of her life and would slump over in the director's chair. But when they call action, it was, you know, curtain up.
I mean, Ethel Merman played my mother. I sang You're the Top with her. Who's going to get to do that?
They were incredible to work with. They got it. They knew what they were there for. They were in on the joke.
It is an amazing episode to watch. The show was always looking for more and more high-profile guest stars, particularly in the 9th season when the show was suffering a ratings decline. And Doug Kramer, he had this idea, let's have Andy Warhol on as a guest star.
Hello, I'm
Andy Warhol.
Maybe my favorite guest star we had on the show was Andy Warhol. And of course, he was legend by then.
I've read all about you.
Andy was a character. Very shy, very, very shy.
Andy was extremely shy.
And people were afraid of him, intimidated. But one of the reasons he was shy is he was intimidated by the cameras and by the process of television.
He was so nervous he couldn't speak.
The moment they would yell action, he would lose his voice and clam up.
And he was shaking. He was terribly nervous.
Hi, Marina.
So we had another actor play his assistant.
And gave him most of Andy's lines.
Who would speak for Andy.
If you don't mind, please.
So that Andy could just stand there and croak out maybe a thank you and nod.
Thanks.
So they have Andy Warhol, but barely saying anything because he was so nervous, which is very endearing.
Hi.
Rachel Johnson reporting for her first cruise.
I certainly hope it won't be your last.
Are you trying to tell me the captain is a rotten driver?
A story that I keep thinking about because of the political climate we live in these days was an episode in which Mackenzie Phillips came on the ship. And she had been an old college pal of Gopher's when she was a man.
Oh, that's funny. I had a roommate my freshman year named Ray Johnson. I mean, you are Ray's sister, right?
Gopher, I am Ray. I'm your old college roommate, Ray Johnson.
So she had had a profound sex change operation and was now a woman.
Well, it's obvious that I'm embarrassing you.
I'm not embarrassed.
Oh, no? Well, then how come you keep looking around to see if anyone can overhear our conversation?
I'm not doing that.
You know, I really thought I could hang on to some of my old friends. You proved me wrong, though.
You're doing a show about that on the Love Boat?
We were good friends in college. We had a lot of laughs together. Now, why shouldn't I like you just because you're a woman? Huh?
That was the beauty of our show. We could tackle anything and get a message over about compassion and empathy and tolerance. All of that was in our show.
Okay, you can come out now.
Are you traveling alone?
Oh, I'm with my partner. I'm in men's clothing.
Ah, I certainly hope so. Otherwise, I'd be very embarrassed.
It was, I think, to some degree, very forward-looking and very unlike what we did.
I'm very lucky to have a friend like you.
No, I'm the lucky one.
But it was handled with respect and grace.
Passengers taking the Puerto Vallarta tour, please report to the desk in the purser's lobby at 11 a.m. Hey, that's 11 a.m., and this is Burl the Pearl Smith saying thanks for listening.
The third season, they began to say, why not the world? Why don't we go to Australia? Why don't we go to Greece and the Mediterranean? Why don't we go to England and Norway and Copenhagen and places like that? And eventually, why don't we become the first show to ever go to China?
And for a lot of us who didn't have the means to travel, or a lot of Americans at that time didn't have passports, this was introducing new parts of the world to our living rooms every week from the comfort of our easy chairs.
They took you around the world to these beautiful places.
Whenever we were shooting overseas, you would have thought they were the Beatles or something. There were huge crowds of fans, and we were treated like royalty, by the way.
All those years traveling all over the world, first class, and all we had to do was know our lines and hit our marks.
When there was travel involved, it was first class to a whole other level. Not only are you going to go on a real cruise, you get to bring your family. Not only do you get to bring your family, you all fly first class. You'll go places where American tourists don't normally get to go because the show has such clout. And so when you go to China, you'll go to the Forbidden City. When you go to Egypt, you'll get a private tour of the pyramids.
I think one of the things that bonded us together is we all traveled together. And that was true of the guest stars, too. Many of them that went with us have very fond memories.
We got to go through the Panama Canal. I mean, come on, how can you say no to that?
But also, you would be shooting maybe 1 or 2 days out of the 7-day cruise. The rest of the time was yours, and it was all expenses paid.
It was so much fun on this magnificent ship.
It was something they didn't want to turn down. The thing about the 70s and 80s that you have to keep in mind now is that it was a party time.
It was great fun. It was because they'd shoot all day, and then we'd all party at night.
Was there drinking on the ship? Yes, people go on these ships to drink. And that's true to this day.
We'd party together, we'd get drunk together, we'd have dinner together. You'd think we'd get tired of each other.
There was a party atmosphere in many cases, particularly, you know, when you had all of these high-priced players working together.
It was actors, it would be writers or producers, it was people across the board just letting loose. It's letting your hair down.
There was a disco on every ship, and that was usually filled at night, and there was a casino.
As Fred liked to say, our relationship lasted longer than our first marriages, which is true.
Let's face it, I mean, this is a business where a lot of people use controlled substances in one way, shape, or form.
Lauren Tweez, she really made headlines when she was fired from the Love Boat, ostensibly for having a drug problem.
For me, it was an issue with cocaine when it was a popular drug, but if you ask anybody, I was the only one doing it. In all of Hollywood, it was just me.
Lauren Tweez was ridiculously let go. Everybody was doing drugs. Every actor, every crew member. A lot of men were caught at the time and didn't get fired. They got suspended, they got reprimanded. It was bad.
It was a different time. I was a woman, so I was blacklisted for that.
In those days, if you did that kind of thing, you were punished. You didn't get help.
I really wanted somebody to say, you need help. Can we help you?
Unfortunately, by the time she made headlines for having a drug problem, she actually was in recovery.
But also she was playing this goody two-shoes, the Love Boat character, you know, and so I guess maybe they were worried about the brand, but it wasn't right, you know?
My one regret about her situation was that I never really came forward and defended and supported her in a way that we should have. So there is some regret there, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Fans loved Julie McCoy.
It's Julie! It's Julie! Sylvia!
The pressure was there to bring back Julie. And so she did come back.
She was so untimely thrust into this very highly visible role on this phenomenally successful show. Much was expected of her. There was a lot of fussing about her hair and the size of her breasts.
We were there at 10 o'clock at night, cutting her hair, changing the color, working her over, redoing her.
And that can be terrifying for a young woman.
I'm proud now to have been a part of it. And I'm glad to be part of American history and American television.
Any show, as it goes on through the years, starts to show its age. The formula wears thin. The fluff element of The Love Boat wasn't necessarily going to play to young audiences who wanted younger and hipper. And so just as The Love Boat had reinvented TV in its own way, and now a new generation was coming. And so they needed to do things in the later days of The Love Boat to spice it up and to bring in particularly younger viewers. They brought in Ted McGinley, a very successful change.
Ace! Incredibly good-looking guy, tall, muscular, blonde. He was just like, oh, come on, this is not a real human.
On screen and off, just heart-stopping good looks. Is there an imperfection that you see when you look in the mirror?
Well, a couple little things that bug me.
You know, they tried to do things to revive the thing that they had at the opening, but you can't do that.
Aaron thought it was sapeable. And we had a meeting at his house, his very expensive house, and listened to him pitch the idea that he thought would save The Love Boat.
We're gonna add girls, like the Ziegfeld Follies.
Not gross sex. Sexy, but not gross sex.
Ziegfeld Follies, that is not a young, hip idea. That is like the oldest, creakiest idea you could possibly think of.
So that was Aaron's contribution.
So they brought in the Love Boat mermaids.
Amy.
Dance!
At one point, they tried to bring a dog on. We had a dog, that little white husky dog.
What's her name?
Tundra. That's because she reminds us of Alaska.
But her nose is cold, too.
Sadly, the dog was not a good actor. We needed what? We needed another dog story to add to the other three? No.
By the time Love Boat really found its audience, there was an entire new industry that was created.
Now, at the time, there were very few ships sailing the oceans because it was viewed as old-fashioned to take a cruise. The Love Boat completely flipped that. And so cruises exploded in popularity.
The show was wonderful for the cruise industry. Princess Cruises is still reaping the reward. Every cruise line still is reaping the reward of the Love Boat being on the air.
If you look at the statistics of how many people took cruises pre-Love Boat and post-Love Boat, it was a game changer.
Princess Cruises, which I think had reluctantly taken on the sponsorship of this show, I think realized this is the most successful product placement experiment in the history of media.
It was essentially a weekly commercial for 10 or 11 years for the cruise industry in general and Princess Cruises in particular.
Because of that, Princess, which had 2 small ships, now I think Princess has 18 ships. And today, these ships accommodate between 3,500 and 4,000 passengers. And the Pacific Princess that we were on could fit inside these ships.
By the end of the 9th season, Fred Grandy had already decided in season 9 that he wanted to leave the show.
This has been a great run for me. 9 years on Love Boat. I've had everything that I ever wanted out of a television show.
He also didn't see his future in showbiz. As he said, I was now like the 5th banana on a series, so what was the future for me? I wanted to try to get a show where I could be the 4th banana.
It ran out of gas.
TV has a shelf life. After losing Julie and seeing ratings drop, they were now going to lose Gopher and see ratings drop. And so ABC finally pulled the plug on The Love Boat after season 9.
I really shut down when it was over.
Anyway, that's show business. So what do? You just go, you just roll with it.
And you think this is going to go on forever.
The Love Boat, which was predicted to sink like the Titanic by every television critic, went on to do 9 years and 6 weeks.
It lasted a long time and had enormous ratings.
It was a phenomenon that I don't think any of us saw coming.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the captain's farewell party. This is our last night on board before we arrive in Los Angeles tomorrow, and I hope you all had a wonderful cruise.
I think there is a kind of bittersweet nostalgia for the show for a lot of people that say, oh, I remember the world then, and I remember the Love Boat then. And it's too bad it's not like that anymore, but at least we still have this.
Just the phrase, the Love Boat, the opening bars of the song, it brings us all back to that same place. You feel like you could practically smell the salt air.
A lot of the people that are now quite well known in the business, for example, Mindy Kaling and Tina Fey and people who I've worked for on their shows, grew up with the Love Boat. It wasn't too trite or banal for them. It was a Saturday night experience. And that's why I think the show now has at least 3 generations of followers.
And I still am very grateful to that because it changed everything in my life. It gave me a bank account.
And it also, and this is something about the Love Boat that unfortunately I think is unique, is it makes you feel good. And there just aren't that many shows that do that anymore.
You're the sail on my love boat. You're the captain and crew. I'd be lost without you.